Now let me tell you about a man I knew in the past. He made an honest living selling vegetables at the market. A single dad trying to make ends meet. And he did the best he could for his daughter. He sold candy, drinks, just to get by. Now Frank was just the guy who loved to give, even when he had nothing. On this fateful day, a Sunday after a tough week, when Frank hardly made any sales, he thought to himself, what am I going to feed my daughter for dinner? I've got very little. Frank heard a lady shout, "Thief! Come here, thief!" A little boy had stolen again from her store. She goes, "What are you going to do with this? Why did you steal?" He looked like he hadn't eaten for days. Frank said to himself. She goes, "Answer me. What are you going to do with this medication?" He goes, "It's for my mum. She's ill." Frank stepped out of his stall and stopped the lady. He goes, "Wait a second. Is your mum ill?" The little boy, with his head down in shame, he nods and says, "Yes, my mum is ill." Now Frank looked in his wallet. He had his last $10, which was to last them until they made some more sales, and he paid the lady for what the little boy had stolen. Frank felt so sorry for the little boy. I mean, he was only 5 years old. He asked his daughter to bring in some food. This was all they had, but Frank still gave the little boy almost all he had. He got him a drink from his store, got him some dinner, and then he gives him the medication and puts it all in a plastic bag for him. The little boy takes it and runs to his dying mum. 30 years later, Frank's still at his stall and helping people like he always did. He was doing better with his business, but not well enough. And whilst working, all of a sudden, he collapses, and then he's rushed to the hospital. The doctors say he will need to have an operation, which will cost them a whole lot of money. The insurance distanced themselves from it. Frank and his daughter didn't have this money. They set up a GoFundMe page, but it didn't catch on. She wept, thinking to herself, how am I going to save my dad? They sold their stall, they mortgaged their house, but it still wasn't enough. Now at this point they had lost everything, and Frank looked like he wasn't going to make it. Well, the hospital went ahead with the surgery, and surprisingly, Frank made it. Now Frank and his daughter look at the bill, right? It was zero balance to be paid. They asked, what happened? The doctor says, I am that little boy you helped 30 years ago when I stole to help my dying mum. You gave me food, water, and some painkillers for my mum. You paid all your hospital bills 30 years ago. 30 years later, that little boy had become a very successful doctor. He recognized Frank, who had helped him and his ill mum. He saved the man who saved his mother's life. It is important to help people who look like they can't pay you back. When you give, expect nothing in return, because willing givers, they never lack. You see, life is like a coin thrown up in the air. You can't really predict which side will turn up. That person you ridiculed, treated badly, may have control over your life, career, or save you tomorrow. No one knows the answers to all the puzzles that tomorrow has in stock for us. Nobody. So be good to all. Help others when and where you can. Show kindness. You never know whose help you will need tomorrow. Treat everyone with respect, the same way you would want to be treated. Be of service to everyone you meet, one way or another. You can't help everyone, but you can start by helping someone, one person at a time. Until next time, be compassionate, and I'll see you soon.